I'd like to welcome you to the start of a brand new painting. So we're going to be working on a transfer drawing, and the idea for this video, at least today's video, is going to be the composition and design. So I'm going to be working on a much larger painting and drawing this time than my usual format. Usually you see an 11 by 14 inch. Now we're going to be working on more of a larger kind of a traditional size. So this is a square, and this is 2 feet by 2 feet, or you can think of it as 24 inches by 24 inches. So what I have is just Canson drawing paper. Since the paper wasn't really wide enough, I just put another sheet of paper underneath. I know it looks kind of funky, but the idea is to have the size of the painting that I want for the transfer drawing. And I'm going to be working with charcoal for the linear block in. So the reason I'm working with charcoal right now as opposed to graphite is because I noticed in the start of my last transfer drawing, I really had to raise the contrast a lot for the graphite to show. So rather than deal with that again this time, I'm just going to be working much darker initially with the charcoal. So what I'm doing is I'm thinking of the furthest corners of the composition. So if the model's leg is going to come out to about here, I don't want this leg to be right up onto the corner of the square. And I'm thinking of the placement of the head, and I'm just thinking of the negative space out here. So again, we're working on 2 feet by 2 feet. Now I hope that my camera doesn't distort too much. That's kind of one reason why I haven't been doing larger pictures. But I figure it's time to do something like this. So the idea is just the same as my portrait drawing, portrait painting videos, where I would start off with just a simple envelope, however you want to say it. So I'm thinking two-dimensionally right now. I'm not worried about the fact that I'm drawing or painting a person. I'm just thinking about shape. So right now we have a shape, creating an angle like this, another angle this way. And I'm thinking about, if I continue this line forward, where does it go? Let's say to about there. And then another angle going out this way. And so this is going to be the start of the big picture. I think in the first, I don't know, I'd say in the first couple of minutes or so, it's important to get all the elements of your composition out there. So we have a little indication here for the chair, a little basic shape for where the figure is going to fit. I'm thinking already that I want the head to be at a 3/4, so meaning the head would be at this position relative to the square, following kind of a nice cropping. So I have tape here, and this tape is going to kind of get in the way. So let's just get rid of that. The paper is going to move around. Remember, I have this. This is one sheet of drawing paper, and underneath right here is another, just because I didn't have paper large enough. Usually I'll just draw right on tracing paper, knowing that I'm going to be transferring. But it's really hard to make a very dark line onto tracing paper. See, I'll put some, I don't know, some clear tape on that later. But anyway, right now we're focusing on the basic envelope, and we're trying to get an idea for the composition of the picture. So let's suppose that the square for the side of the chair goes there, and then I want to say that I want the corner of the chair, the little handle for the chair, to be here, and I don't want it to go any further out in my composition. I don't want it to get any closer to the edge of the square. The chair cuts into here. And I'm letting my arm move around the picture. I'm not very timid, not very afraid to make any changes. And just like I say in the portrait drawing, portrait painting videos, or it's just the head and shoulders, keep your shape simple and easy to work with, and I'm sure you can finish my sentence. Keep your shape simple and easy to understand, so that when the time comes to make changes, and they will with this one, those changes are simple and easy to manage. But right now, the big picture is what we're after, and you can already tell right away where everything is going to fit. I have everything at about a good, I don't know, 40% accuracy. I don't know, maybe 80% accuracy. Not entirely sure of the accuracy of any of these shapes, but what I do have set in stone is this point here in the composition, this point here in the composition, this point here. And we should talk about the hands as well. So rather than think about it as hands, even though I just said hands, I'm going to try as much to think about it as just a shape. So just a simple shape that encompasses the hand. And I'll find some clear tape or something just to make sure that this doesn't bounce as much. So in the photo reference, you'll see that there's a heater over here, a window over there, and I don't quite want all that. So what I'm thinking is I'm anticipating the final result. I'm anticipating what I want this image to look like after 100 or so hours that I'm going to put into it. And I don't see that window in the future of this painting, and I don't really see this heater in the future of this painting. I do see some type of wall, the chair, maybe a cast shadow for the chair, and I think that's about it. I don't want too much else in the negative space or in the background for this picture. Now, another thing compositionally that is kind of important is the knee. So the knees might fit somewhere around here. Now, the right leg is overlapping the left leg, but right now I'm just putting a simple line. Doesn't have to be in the right place, most certainly won't be in the right place for where I think the knees are going to fall, and right there is probably where I want the knees to be. I don't really want to crop it at a joint, but if it happens, it happens. It's okay with the transfer drawing. If I get anything a little strange in the transfer drawing, I can always correct it when I transfer onto the canvas or the panel. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue working on this envelope. So I'm trying to just look at, again, the two-dimensionality of this picture, of this scene. So again, someone's probably going to say it looks like a crime scene, like somebody's body was, I don't know, traced over with chalk or something. But I think that this is just the easiest way to get acclimated to the figure. So again, I'm treating the figure just like the portrait, just the simple shape. It's so much easier to move a line than it is to move a mass of color and a bunch of, or even worse, a bunch of details. So I wouldn't recommend starting off with the eyelashes or anything like that, especially with something this complicated. So we're going to look at this little shape that comes out here and then juts right into here, which of course you know is the hands and the arms. Now, since I'm trying to focus primarily on composition and design for this segment of the video, I'm going to go ahead and just remind you of the elements that I'm thinking of, being the furthest distance here from the chair to the square, and the hand. I'm starting to have trouble with the placement of the hand. This might be a little too far to the left for my own taste, but that's the advantage again of the transfer drawing. When the outlines are all complete, I'll be able to move it however I want. So I'm just going to continue on with these shapes a little bit more, and I think tomorrow we'll add a little bit more information and specificity for the block in. So let's start to work from the outside shapes towards the inside shapes, and that's right, I said tomorrow. So remember, I'm uploading these videos now every day. So every day, roughly around 11 o'clock US time, 11 o'clock in the morning US time, you will have another video available to you. And again, I'm really trying to share the experience with you. I've done many portrait drawing, portrait painting tutorials. I think I did one on a hand one time. I did one with the figure one time. And now I'm really trying to move into giving you the experience of what it's like in an artist's studio every single day of the week. So you have access to it basically whenever you'd like. So again, let's go ahead and move this angle. So we're working now towards the inner shapes, and the inner shapes are being developed based on the outer shapes. And I'm thinking about this in a two-dimensional fashion. So I'm thinking, if I were to have a sheet of glass in front of me and the model, what would the outlines look like exactly? Now, some of you will say, well, why don't you just trace the picture? I could. Certainly could, but then I run into the problem of photographic distortion, and that's something that just it happens when taking photo references. It's okay, but for me, I think it's just honestly more of a thing about enjoyment. I actually enjoy problem solving in this kind of fashion. I enjoy having a set of shapes in front of me and trying to reason with those shapes. You know, sometimes I don't even know what I'm looking at. I'm just so focused on the shape that it's kind of like a meditative state to be in. So let's keep on adding a little more specificity to these shapes. And tell you what, I'm really trying to give you the reality. I feel like a lot of stuff out there in terms of information about artists is that we're just born with it and that we can do it and naturally, and it doesn't happen that way. It really doesn't. You're seeing the real thing as it unfolds every single day. I'm sure there's going to be some mistakes along the way, and I'll make videos about those mistakes along the way, just like I did with the last video segment, or with the last video series, excuse me. And I'm also trying out a different camera angle. Now this is 2 feet by 2 feet, so the camera is much further away, and I'm trying the best that I can not to get my head or my shoulder in the shot. So I'm staying pretty far away. Now, it's important to stand back quite a bit. And I'm standing, I'm no longer sitting, just because of the size of this drawing and, well, what this will eventually become, which is the painting. So I'm going to be standing for the majority of this. So again, just working back and forth. So let's go ahead and start to put in our first little glimpse of where the head is going to potentially fit. So based on the outside shape, we have a little curve here, a little curve there. Again, we're working with simple straight lines and angles, but horizontally here, the bottom of the chin is a little bit higher. A little bit, not much. A little bit higher. So I tell you what, one of my tendencies with drawing the human figure, everyone has different tendencies, but one of my tendencies is to make the head too small. That's one of my tendencies, so I'm going to have to fight that tendency by standing back and observing from a distance and not being too attached to any of my marks right away. So here we have a little simple shape here, just trying to get an idea of where the head might fit. The neck would probably be somewhere over there, but again, it's very dangerous to think about it as the head, the neck, the shoulder, or anything like that, especially in the beginning. That's a very dangerous mindset, because then it puts you into a very psychological state of, man, I don't want to make her head too big. I don't want to make her shoulders too wide or anything like that. Instead, I think it's easier to think about it in terms of shape. And I'm telling you the same kind of things that I was telling you back when I was doing the weekly portrait painting tutorials. So this is, again, building off of that. So again, I'm thinking about shape, and I'm thinking about shape in relation to one another, two-dimensional. The easiest way I can possibly simplify all of the enormous complexity that I'm faced with. So after standing back, there could be a problem with the width, but I'm not entirely sure. And again, I'm going to keep adjusting these shapes. That's why, again, I tend to repeat myself a lot. Keep your shape simple and easy to work with, because I bet you I'm going to be moving every one of these shapes at least 20 or 100 times until I get them in the right relation to one another. And so we're going to continue this drawing tomorrow, but I should mention one thing. Alright, so in yesterday's video, you saw that I uploaded the quote-unquote final layer on this portrait painting, and then at the end of the painting I asked you all the question if you wanted me to develop it further. So based on the comments that I'm actually reading right now, everyone seems to want me to develop this painting and push it further, so that video is going to be a little bit later on during the week. I uploaded that video 11 a.m. today, and right now it's about 8:14 p.m. As I'm finishing editing this current video. So sometime during the week I'll film the continuation of this portrait painting, but you will still see this one that we started today develop over time. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.